I'm not sure if I'm smoking this cigarette for Curt Cignetti or because it's like the last thing you'd give James Franklin before his Penn State career ends. Welcome back to the Bill and Doug Show. We're doing it old style, talking Northern Ball, National College Football. Doug Lesmerises and Bill Landis. Thanks to everybody for joining us here. Man, what a day. We have to talk about Penn State losing to Northwestern. We have to talk about Indiana beating Oregon. I want to talk a little bit about USC just kind of ripping through Michigan's defense in very impressive fashion with such a huge USC Notre Dame game next week. I want to talk a little bit about the fact that everybody in the SEC stinks to high heaven. I want to talk a little bit about the fact that it feels like Luke Fickell's done. Wisconsin got shut out at home for the first time since 1980. And Ohio State's going to Madison next week. And then just a little bit of life throughout the Big Ten. I'm going to leave it up to you, though, Bill Landis.
Yeah.
And we are monitoring Georgia-Auburn, which has been just as sectioning as section can get. And the only thing worse than SEC play on the field this year is SEC officiating. This is an abomination and an embarrassment. And if this was happening in the Big Ten, Paul Feinbaum would be marching to Indianapolis on behalf of college football. This is a joke. What this has been, a primetime game, the oldest rivalry in the South, what this Georgia-Auburn game has been on the field of play and the way it is officiated is an embarrassment to all of college football.
It's pretty gross. Yeah. I mean, I haven't really felt the need to even pay that much attention to it because I feel like every time I looked at the screen, there was just a replay review happening and not much else, happening when they weren't reviewing things. It's 13-10 with 7 minutes left. Yeah, gross is right. Gross is right. Gross for a lot of reasons.
Georgia stinks. I know Penn State stinks. Georgia also stinks. And that Auburn's letting them up off the mat is just an example of everybody stinks. This is a joke. Do you want to start with Indiana's tremendous win at Oregon, what this means for Curt Cignetti, what this means for the Big Ten, what this means for the future of Indiana football? Or do you want to start with the final piece of Penn State's and James Franklin's collapse?
I think we should start with Indiana.
Okay.
While you have your cigarette handy.
So you said we spent much of the offseason saying, who's the next Indiana? And you were one of the people who I think came to the conclusion that Indiana might be this year's Indiana. I would like to differ on that because I think Indiana is this year's Notre Dame. And I think Indiana has a chance to make the college football playoff semifinals.
No, I think they do too. I just meant Indiana's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
They're not they weren't going to catch anybody by surprise. So no, technically they're not last year's Indiana, but I will, I'll own up to being wrong about them, right? I still had, I was wrong about USC and Indiana, but we're talking about Indiana. I thought Oregon might own the line of scrimmage in that game, and they did not.
They did not. They did not. And Indiana, I thought, did own the skill positions in a way that we thought was very possible. Elijah Surratt was unstoppable. I thought Roman Hemby and Kalen Black both ran hard. Fernando Mendoza was composed. Omar Cooper Jr. is a problem in space, and they did a good job of getting him the ball. But in watching the post game, I watched both Dan Lanning and Curt Cignetti's post game. Sometimes coaches just go in and say things. A lot of these people are saying it's on me, or whatever. One of Dan Lanning's points is they just were more prepared for this than Oregon was, that they had a better plan. He kept saying they had a better plan. And I actually think that is some good self-awareness and truth by Dan Lanning. I thought Indiana just knew what it wanted to do more than Oregon did. And then Curt Cignetti was talking about the way Indiana's defense just got after Oregon, especially in the second half. Indiana knew exactly what it was going to take at Oregon and then just went out and did it.
So it ended up being 41 yards in the second half for Oregon.
Is that right?
Really
Crazy.
Got after Dante Moore, sacked him 6 times. I had 8 tackles for loss. They looked fast, man. That was the biggest revelation to watch because Oregon, you sort of equate with speed, right? And then, at least on defense, but I would say too on offense, Indiana looked faster than Oregon, and every bit as athletic as Oregon, if not more. I knew it was a good team. I guess, and it's my own fault for just not believing or not paying close enough attention. I didn't think they were that good. And I know like they didn't blow their doors off, but that's a tough place to go win. And I don't really think I don't think that much differently about Oregon's like standing nationally.
No, I don't either.
I just think we were wrongfully not including Indiana in that conversation, and now we will do that moving forward.
I mean, I don't know how you could look at that. I still think Oregon, if we thought Oregon was one of the 3 best teams in the country coming in, I still think Oregon might be one of the 4 best teams in the country, but Indiana is now one of the 4 best teams in the country.
Yeah, Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon, and
Miami.
Yeah.
I don't think Indiana lacks anything. You look at the defensive stats. Aiden Fisher, their linebacker, 13 tackles, including a sack and a half. Elijah Hardy, linebacker, 13 tackles with the sack. Isaiah Jones, 8 tackles with a sack and a pick.
By the way,
iced it.
Just as you're running through that, Hardy and Jones recruited out of high school to Indiana. Like, so they were there.
They were there. Isaiah Jones looked unbelievable today.
Yeah.
But there is nothing, and this is one of those people start chiming in, and we want to welcome everybody to college football, but also like kind of shut your hole if we don't know what you're talking about. So they're like Kevin Clark, who works for ESPN, is just a Miami grad and a Miami fan and does NFL stuff and does a good job there, and then just dives into college football because whatever. Is trying to be like he's going through like Indiana only has this many 4 stars, whatever. It's like, dude, that train is out of the station 2 years ago. Please catch up to college football. Indiana does not lack anything from a talent standpoint. 3 levels of the defense, run and hit guys at linebacker. D'Angelo Pond's doing his thing, knocking passes down in the secondary. They got after Dante Moore immediately in that game. Immediately, they're blowing up. The right tackle. They beat Oregon's right tackle first play of the game, and then offensively, Elijah Surratt is almost unstoppable. We knew this. They are the back shoulder masters, but Oregon couldn't do anything about it. 13 targets, 8 catches, 121 yards for Elijah Surratt. Omar Cooper Jr., 8 targets, 7 catches, 58 yards. Elijah Surratt was absolutely dominant against everybody Oregon tried to stop him with. And then again, to be able to balance that with a rushing attack, Roman Hemby, 19 for 70, ran hard, man. Ran hard. Oregon's trotting out true freshmen at running back. Roman Hemby's a man. Indiana looked talent-wise, step for step with a vastly talented Oregon every single play of that game.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I agree. And like a guy like Roman Hemby, right? Roman Hemby's been a good Big Ten back for 3 years. He was just on Maryland and no one noticed. But Indiana noticed and brought him in and put him around other really good players. And guess what? He's excellent. So there's still some JMU guys on the roster, right? But they did such a good job in the offseason of like upgrading the areas where they were clearly deficient last year when they had to go play teams like Ohio State and Notre Dame.
Yeah.
It's just like it's so much better, and it's mainly like an offensive line conversation. But that offensive line, like, you know, were they world beaters? No, but I thought they were going to get their lunch eaten all day, and Fernando Mendoza wasn't going to have time to do anything, and that didn't happen. And they ran the ball well enough, and they just, like I said, they appear to have the required speed or necessary speed you need to go actually compete for a national championship. So it was a good roster. They brought back more than people realize, and then they really upgraded in some key areas and ways that I don't think people were like accounting for as it was happening. But now everybody knows.
Indiana 6 sacks, Oregon 1.
24
Indiana
pressures for Indiana.
24 pressures. They were in Dante Moore looked very average because they were in his face all day. And then also when they got in his face, and they didn't let him run. They didn't let him get out of the pocket and make plays. 3 yards per carry rushing the ball for Indiana, but 2.7 yards per carry for Oregon. Dante Moore, with all those sacks he took, ended up with negative 27 rushing yards. And then you have Fernando Mendoza, who is just, I don't know. I mean, people are talking. Garrett Nussmeier stinks like hot garbage. No offense to Garrett Nussmeier and his family, but what I can't do, I also am not thrilled. It's fine. Maybe I just need to unfollow draft analysts. College football exists for something other than to put players in the NFL draft. And every half-baked draft analyst, every time like there's another quarter and they're like, oh, this is the new number 1 pick. And people like Fernando Mendoza, what if he's the number 1 pick? What do you think, Cleveland Browns fans? He's been compared to Kirk Cousins. Shut your hole. Can we just let the college football season work itself out? I don't want to think about Fernando Mendoza as the next Kirk Cousins. I want to think about Fernando Mendoza leading Indiana into the Big Ten title game at 12-0 and being the 3 seed in the college football playoff. So anyway, and those people are allowed to exist. I just need to get them out of my feed.
Garrett Nussmeier, by the way, just in a battle with a very average South Carolina team right now.
I thought Garrett Nussmeier and Lenora Sellers, I thought they were going to be number 1 picks at the end of this season. Hot garbage. Wait till we get to the SEC part. I'm going to do a little more SEC next week because we don't talk about what's happening in the Big Ten. I don't think Indiana lacks anything.
I don't think so either. Not after tonight.
Curt Cignetti in the postgame said last year he came out and talked it with a purpose. Because he was like, I want to be out in front. I need to be out in front, laying something down, being the grand marshal of the parade so everybody can get line behind me. And then he's sort of saying, like, he was like, I'm not doing that this year. I was like, well, I don't know. You kind of are doing it. But that was with the purpose. And this year, and he was doing it like in the offseason still. Maybe he probably hasn't done it as much since the season started. Sure. But this year, he's like, we built up the credibility. You know, we lost to Ohio State. We lost Notre Dame last year. They played for the national title. That was it. But we built up this credibility. But to go do that, to go do a thing that even Ohio State didn't do last year, which is go on the road and win at Autzen, right? It is a remarkable achievement for Indiana football. And I think we are beginning to postulate, is this the greatest coaching turnaround ever engineered in college football history?
I mean, nothing comes to mind to compare it to. And I honestly don't even think we could properly articulate just like how much of an improvement this is. Indiana was awful. Indiana is the losingest program in the history of college football. And when Curt Cignetti took it over, was at the bottom. Yeah. And they won 11 games last year. And even if you wanted to like downgrade that based on their schedule, like how could you possibly downgrade it now with what they've done so far this season? It's incredible. Like, nothing comes to mind. And I think like when you're just talking like pure coaching chops in college football, like, I don't know, give me Curt Cignetti. Like I don't think not everyone in college football is doing this with this team. Like this guy's he's got something. Where it's going, I'm not entirely sure, but at the moment, Curt Cignetti and more importantly, the Indiana players like have the Hoosiers as a bona fide national championship contender.
They are a bona fide national championship contender. So a couple things. One is we are possibly aimed at a 12-0 Ohio State Indiana Big Ten championship game. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. There's no reason to do that. There's upsets all over the place. But Indiana has already handled the most difficult things it's going to face. And Ohio State just took care of Washington on the road, just took care of Illinois on the road. Penn State is not going to be what anybody thought it was going to be. They still obviously that Michigan game until proven otherwise is obviously a very difficult game for Ohio State. But to think about that, Landis, like that's quite a place to be that we could see that game in Indianapolis.
Man, what a scene that'll be. Because I actually think like there's a conversation to be had about like what does a conference championship mean anymore. But the fact that like Ohio State hasn't won it in so long, if they ended up there in Indianapolis playing against Indiana, it would probably be the best Big Ten championship atmosphere we've ever seen. Like probably not close.
And I think everybody realizes this, but if you were curious or wondering or doubting, Indiana last year when Indiana came into Ohio Stadium and couldn't handle the noise and couldn't handle the moment and couldn't mostly handle the Ohio State talent. It feels like right. This Indiana team is a significant step past that because I feel like they retained D'Angelo Pons, Aiden Fisher, Mikhail Kamara, Elijah Surratt. Like they retained so much of what made them good last year. And then they added Fernando Mendoza, which no offense to Curtis Rourke, who was second team All Big Ten last year. That's an upgrade. Like Pat Coogan at center to bring him in for Notre Dame, that helps. Like they supplemented with some other things. They've had some other homegrown guys grow up, as you noted. I am sure that Ohio State fans if and when that would happen, would certainly not take Indiana for granted. Somebody asked a question. God, you watch post-game interviews, they're awful. Nobody asks football questions. Everybody just asks all vibe questions, right?
Yeah.
All vibes. It's like, well, there's actually
you mean TV interviews or like the actual coach's press conference?
No, the press is the news conferences. I watched the Lanning and the Signetti, and I was impressed by neither. Somebody asked Signetti about like what does this do for the haters and the doubters or whatever, and I'm like, are there a ton of haters and doubters left for Indiana? They handled Oregon in Eugene. Who is like, other than, I don't have my bald cap, other than that ding dong, who's like, I don't know about Indiana. Everyone knows Indiana's good now, right?
I would hope so. Yeah. I don't know. I'm sure you'll see. Yeah, we'll see. Actually, Oregon wasn't very good, and what a gritty win for the Tide against Missouri in an active construction site out over there in Columbia, Missouri. Yeah. But
what was with that?
It looked weird.
Were they working on the stadium during the game?
I don't know. It was pretty strange. Every time they showed the shot from behind the offense, it was kind of.
The SEC. The SEC's a mess. Greg Sankey, maybe quit making charts and get your league in order. It's an embarrassment to the sport. I thought it was just an absolutely tremendous win. Yeah. I could not be more impressed by Indiana, and it just, if
best win of the season.
They look the part. The part. So the other thing is, would you consider voting Indiana number one? They beat Illinois by more than Ohio State beat Illinois, and they just went to Autzen and won.
Yes. I would.
As much as like Texas beating Oklahoma certainly helps Ohio State's resume or whatever. And it's not only like, well, this win got slightly better and this win got slightly worse. Like, resume matters, but also you watch teams and how they play. But you said that's the best win of the season. I'd think about it. I'm not sure what would stop you from doing it, actually, when you think about it. Given just who they played so far and the way that win is a great win.
On the road. Yeah, I guess they took. I don't know that I would definitely do it, but I would. Yeah, I would absolutely. I would sit down for a long time and think about it.
Yeah, I think they're 1-2. They're 1-2, 2-1 in some order. Is there anything else? I mean, I watched that game. I took notes on every play. I really tried to get a feel for that game and how it unfolded. Like, one of the weird things is, trying to handle that noise. Indiana had 5 false start penalties, but they weren't caused by the noise. They were caused by Oregon doing that defensive line shift before the snap, which caused Indiana offensive guys to shift. And then there was like a terrible pass interference that the officials missed on Oregon that Curt Cignetti went nuts. And then when he got asked about it at halftime, it was sort of like a weird question, whether basically like, did you do that on purpose? And he's like, well, you can't let that go.
Yeah.
And he was like, I was yelling at him with the purpose. And then I actually thought they started throwing some flags on Oregon as a result, like really well coached. And the other thing I wanted to mention, like from a game standpoint, Mike Shanahan calling the plays offensively for Indiana and Bryant Haynes defensively for Indiana. They kept those coordinators around this offseason. Those guys came with Cignetti, right? They like tremendous scheme, execution, just like really good football. And then the guys executed the plan. We've talked about it a lot with Matt Patricia and Ohio State this year, but you could see the connection, I think, both sides of the ball with the guys calling the plays for Indiana.
Yeah, and Haynes is definitely a guy that teams made a run at, including Penn State, and I think like even Ohio State, I think kicked the tires at least. 2 really good coordinators, yeah. And like the other guy that was part of that offensive brain trust was Tino Sunseri, who went to UCLA, got fired, and then the guy that replaced him now has UCLA like the 4th best team in the Big Ten. So I don't really know what to make of that. What did you think of Dan Lanning kicking a field goal on 4th and 2 from the Indiana 16 to make it 13-13 in the third quarter? That felt a little un-Lanning-like to me.
But I thought Curt Cignetti does that to you, right? I think Curt Cignetti, with his aggression, and right, they were talking after the game, he had attack written on his hands. The guy's a psycho.
Yes, he is.
My
a psycho.
God,
two of the most psychotic coaches in college football.
But again, we talked about before the game, you were like, oh, Dan Lanning took his shirt off at game day. And it's like, that's not good.
Nope.
Because Curt Cignetti is not a guy who takes his shirt off, but Curt Cignetti is the guy who gives you side eye when you take your shirt off. Like,
spiritually, really? He always has his shirt off. He just doesn't actually have to do it. Yeah. Spiritually,
Curt Cignetti came out of the womb shirtless and never put a shirt on. 63 years of letting it all hang out. I just think you get a little Indiana, when Indiana plays like that, they make you not be yourself as much. And I actually didn't have a problem with taking the points because, like, well, you got to do this. But if to say that that's contrary to what Dan Lanning would typically do, I think is correct.
I mean, they went for it on 4th down 4 times in this game and got it 3 times. And like on 4th and 2,
right,
with a little momentum, they chose to kick and tie it with like a decent amount of game left. I don't know. It's just like that. When that happened, I was like, Indiana's going to win. Like that just kind of, and it was tied at the time, but it just felt like maybe the game was being played on Indiana's terms when that happened.
Yeah. And then again, like, Oregon got a pick 6 and Indiana bounced right back from it. Right.
Yeah.
Like, just that kind of stuff.
Bounce back drive from Mendoza. Yeah.
Yeah. So just really good by Indiana and just like completely legitimate. And I think like the other thing is, and people have made this point, I think we've been talking about this. It's like one of the things, Curt Cignetti, the first thing he said in his post-game news conference was like, it's a great win for the program. It's a great win for the players. It's a great win for our fans and supporters. We have 800,000 people out there. It's the largest alumni base in the nation. I don't know if that's factually correct or not. I'm not an alumni base expert. But for him to say that, one is, I think, is sort of like, so all 800,000 of you send us $5 for NIL because we just beat Oregon and you're going to go like puff your chest out about Indiana, about the university right now. But it's also a reminder, I think, of why can't Indiana start being good at football long term? Why can't this be Clemson? The Dabo Swinney, what's Clemson? Greenville, South Carolina? Are you kidding me? I'd rather be in Bloomington, Indiana.
Sure.
Dabo Swinney, when he started winning at Clemson, wasn't like, well, I better leave for the SEC as soon as I get the 10 wins so I have a chance to actually go do something. He just established it. I know they had won a title in 1980 or whatever it was, but like he just reestablished it kind of out of nowhere and then won 2 national titles. So we don't have to talk about national titles, but when the playoffs expanded, when you have... if you can get your university and your athletic department behind you, I don't think Curt Cignetti has to leave to accomplish anything that he wants to accomplish, and I don't think Indiana's going to let him leave.
I don't think he has to leave. It's just a matter of what's the how many zeros are on the number when the request to leave comes, and can Indiana match that, right?
Yeah,
but I don't think Clemson's a great comparison. Because Clemson rose up in an era where it wasn't as open as it is now, right? They have incredible support, and as long as that continues, and I don't really see why it wouldn't. In fact, it should get stronger.
Yeah.
I don't think Indiana's going anywhere. Yeah.
No. So great win for Indiana. They'll be number 1 or 2, and I certainly you don't always have to, after every win, play the schedule game of like, well, I'll beat this guy and this guy. I know they have Michigan State next because he was talking about that, but again, for them to go huge win over Illinois, handle business barely at Iowa, but handle it. And then after an off week, come and play this way against Oregon is a huge thing. All right. You want to talk about Penn State?
Yeah, let's do it. Georgia's going to win, by the way. It's 20-10.
Makes me sick. So coming into last year, Florida State was number 11 in the preseason polls and went 2-10, right?
Yeah.
Penn State's now 3-3 after national title aspirations. I think this might be as devastating a collapse in a single season as I've ever seen for any program in 20 years of following college football.
It is for me. I mean, I've covered them about half that long, but yeah.
Because it's a combination of, if you have like Clemson's collapsed this year, but Dabo Swinney still has 2 rings, right? And Florida State they'd been kind of trying to claw back up, and they had they should have made the playoff the year before, but that was kind of a one-off. And then they were ranked. Penn State has been right at this point that everyone knows the point Penn State's been at. They win 10 games every year, but they couldn't get to the top tier of college football. And to now fall off a cliff. Do you think there's a chance that James Franklin resigns on Monday?
Yeah. I think it's a pretty toxic situation there right now. You see some and I know fans boo or whatever, but it's been a strained relationship for a while, and this is probably 2 or 3 or 100 steps too far past where it should be. And also it's just I lived there for 5 years. You can't hide. It's an incredibly it swallows you up. You can't. There's no escape for him or his family. So do I know for a fact that's going to happen? No. Would I be surprised? Absolutely not.
It certainly is part, I think, of the discussion when after Ohio State lost to Michigan last year around Ryan Day, if Ohio State had not gone on a playoff run and won the national championship. And it's similar, is the school going to fire this guy? It's well, no, the guy doesn't deserve to be fired. But could everything get to the point where it's such a miserable existence, neither the coach nor the school wants it to continue? And whatever the buyout is, and I guess it's over $50 million, and the old AD gave him a 10-year contract out of desperation, and people are mad about that. But if you can't live like this, you get one life. I can't live like this. There's no amount of money. I'm miserable. Every minute of every day, I am miserable. And every time I leave my house or my family leaves my house, we are reminded of my failures. And I can't do this. We're not there, but you said Nicole Auerbach mentioned this on the NBC show. John Sauber, who we know, who's a great Penn State reporter, I read his story after the game. He mentioned the idea of, was that James Franklin's last game in Beaver Stadium? And what is now ahead for Penn State, they've played already a bunch of games at home. They only have 2 more home games left, but they're at Iowa next week. Then they're off. Then they're at Ohio State. Then they're home against Indiana.
Right.
They're 3-3. They might be 3-6. So,
yeah, I think they would be.
It's over. So then if it's over, I think the chances of James Franklin being the Penn State coach next year are probably 10% at most. So then if that's the case, it would make a little bit of sense to just everybody part ways right now.
Yeah, because the thing you don't have now if you're Penn State is even if you thought that, right, it's over. When this season ends, it's over. But maybe if he still manages to get 9-3, someone will want to hire him, right? Maybe Florida lost again today, right? The Florida opens, or somebody else. I think James will take an SEC job if we're available to him. No one in the SEC is going to hire him after this season. North Carolina might, right? I feel that's their best hope. This is North Carolina. Once Bill Belichick's done there, would want to hire James Franklin, but that just does not feel like a viable option at the moment. So feels like it would need to be some kind of negotiation, I guess, to see how much money James Franklin is willing to give back to Penn State for peace of mind and a reset. I don't know. I don't know what that number would be.
And then I think feels like it take a year off, figure things out, because that's the whole thing. It was when he's winning 10 games, maybe it's time. It's not working out there. He'll go to USC. But like you said, what fan base is going to be oh, cool. We got the guy who drove Penn State off a cliff. Woo! You're talking about a Conference USA job or something for that. But also, Drew Aller threw just a devastating pick on the first drive. They're marching down the field, and he just throws. He half clutched and then threw it. It was a terrible decision. He kind of was trying to throw it back shoulder, but it was inside the 10-yard line, lived to fight another day. The minute he hesitated, it threw the timing off and allowed the DB to make a play. It is just an unbelievably unforgivable decision for a third-year starter to make. So they lost points there. And then Northwestern during that game muffed the punt and set up Penn State on a short field. And then Penn State returned the favor and muffed the punt and set up Northwestern on a short field. And just these devastating mistakes. James Franklin didn't throw that pick. James Franklin wasn't the transfer receiver who just dropped the punt for no reason. They had a kickoff that the guy caught in the end zone, hesitated, and brought out to the 9-yard line. But they had a drive at the end of the first half where Northwestern drove 58 yards to kick a field goal in the to end the first half. 30 yards on that drive were a face mask and a late hit on Preston Stone, the Northwestern quarterback. They gained 28 yards and they got a field goal drive out of it, which was a huge field goal drive. The number of losing plays that Penn State made in that game was astounding. And as I'm about to say, James Franklin didn't throw the pick. He created a program that, as a 4-touchdown favorite, made losing play after losing play after losing play and gave a game away at home to ruin their season.
Yeah, they somebody asked James Franklin, I think, either at his Monday press conference or on the Wednesday one he does at night, do you feel like you have the culture to sustain losing the UCLA game and rebounding and turning and keeping the season on track? And he said yes. And it's all the stuff you laid out, Katron Allen's on the bench, laughing after the game. The one guy who's played consistently well for Penn State this year is on the bench laughing after the game after they lose Northwestern. I saw Denai Dennis Sutton was asked about how bad their run defense was, and he said that's not my job. They're done. They're done. I don't think anybody there wants to play for him anymore or wants to try to salvage something this season. And now Drew Aller's career is over because I thought he might have broken his leg on that play. So it's just a mess. I don't know how they move. Obviously they're going to move forward and they're still going to play, but I have no idea what it's going to look like. Are they going to Andy Koltonicki has been terrible as the OC. Jim Knowles has been pretty bad this year, right? Did they make coordinator changes and keep James Franklin? I have no idea. There's a lot of money invested in both those guys. So I don't know. I don't know if Penn State's the kind of place that would spend the money necessary to make changes in season, but clearly something's got to give because I don't think they can go forward as they are right now.
You got to blow it up. Got to blow it up. It's just unbelievable. I thought Jim Knowles was terrible. They got in a couple. So Griffin Wilde's the only receiver that Northwestern has, and repeatedly they hit 3 straight. So it's the game's in the balance, and it's not the first time that a Jim Knowles defense had done this, but the game is in the balance, and Northwestern goes on an 11-play, 75-yard, 5-minute and 54-second touchdown drive right through the heart of Jim Knowles' checkbook. And he repeatedly on that drive is setting up situations where he is bringing 5 guys. He can't help himself. He's bringing 5 and he's pressuring Preston Stone to create situations where the only thing Preston Stone can do is throw a slant in the middle of the field to the only receiver that Northwestern has, and Griffin Wilde. And Penn State can't cover him. And there's nobody, because he's bringing 5, there's no linebackers. There's no safeties in the middle of the field. We've seen Jim Knowles do this. He pressures a quarterback into the only decision he can make and leaves that decision wide open. And it is frankly ridiculous. And then at the end of the game, the last drive when Penn State gets the ball back, 2 consecutive plays. The play where Drew Aller got hurt, and then when Ethan Grunkmeyer came in on 4th down, Northwestern rushed 3, dropped 8. And guess what happened? And they spied the quarterback. And guess what happened? There was no throwing lane. And then they rallied to the ball and tackled the quarterback both times. And Jim Knowles is I don't know, you want to bring 7? It's insane. He has no situational awareness as a defensive coordinator. And I'm not so sure if James Franklin goes on Monday that Jim Knowles shouldn't go. I thought this was an embarrassing performance by Jim Knowles as a defensive coordinator.
I think all 3 should go. I just don't know if they're going to get rid of all 3 of them.
Someone has to be the head coach, I guess.
Someone has to be the head coach. Well, they have. There's Terry Smith is there. Terry Smith, Penn State alum. He could be the interim head coach. There's a couple of former Penn State alums on the staff who I think would make sense as interim head coaches, just to kind of get this thing to the end of this season. Bad. Northwestern held the ball for 35 minutes. I've actually never really seen. I don't think I've seen a a final stat book where a team ended up only 5 of 12 on third down, but somehow held the ball for 35 minutes. They had they had three drives that were double-digit plays, and I think 2 others that were 8 plays. They were just on the field forever.
Yeah.
And I think like that is a thing. Like Jim Knowles is impatient, right? You play a game like that, and he just starts blitzing like crazy and puts his defense in bad position because he wants to get the ball back. So like Northwestern, I thought actually did a nice job of kind of using that against him. But yeah, just in like whatever. Honestly, whatever your game plan is, don't lose on Northwestern. But like it was compounded by some pretty bad coaching.
The play that I really was focused on, 3rd and 8 on that last drive, they bring 5, but they drop deny Dennis Sutton, who's supposed to be their best pass rusher, in coverage, and they get Griffin Wilde matched up with a red shirt freshman slot corner and allow themselves like, let's determine the game on this. And it literally, go back and watch it. It's literally the only play that Preston Stone can make, and Jim Knowles directed him right into it. 11 plays, 75 yards, 5 minutes, 54 seconds, $3 million.
Yeah.
So they're done, and I actually think, and like, best of luck to Drew Aller. Nobody wants to see anybody get hurt playing this game. It's a violent game. It's a physical game. I think he's so fried. I hope the injury is not too severe. I think it actually might be for the best that Drew Aller is done playing football at Penn State. Because to try to run him out there, like that, the page is turning, and I think he is mentally fried. And he is, you are responsible for your own mistakes, but the lack of development, the lack of when you have a quarterback making the same mistakes in year 3 that he made in year 1, and that pick on the first drive just completely changed the game. That's not only him. That's the people around him. And you and I have talked about that. That's the quarterback's coach. That's the offensive coordinator. That's the head coach. That's the offensive line. That's everybody not rallying to allow the quarterback to play his best. But best of luck to him. But he's obviously a primary part of their failings. And I think it might be better for him to be done.
Yeah, it's unfortunate like to see anybody get hurt, but I think you're probably right. Again, and it's not even. It is a football conversation, but like it's a mental, like psychological thing too. It's just like maybe for the best to not have to go through the rest of the season with the way that things are at Penn State right now. And I guess like Penn State now gets to see what Ethan Grunkmeyer is about and whether or not he's a guy that can build around for the future. If your season's going in the tank, I guess at least that's a useful part of it.
Just stunning, really, just stunning. Okay, is there anything else? This is why I said Drew Aller broke his foot, and I was explaining to my wife, he broke his foot, he's out for the year, but I actually think it might be for the best. And my wife said, could James Franklin break his coaching foot? And that would be, it's like, I'm out for the year. I'm not fired, I'm not quitting.
What do you think is going to happen?
I am not a Penn State expert by any stretch of the imagination. Right. When I see the people, because here's the thing, it's like you saw watching the Penn State coverage this year, James Franklin was opening up, and you saw the people on the beat writing personal feature stories about James Franklin in a way that you hadn't before. And now some of those people are saying like, it's time.
Yep.
Right. Some of those same people who I think know James Franklin, right, who aren't just like, he's the coach or whatever. Like they're media people, I think, have gotten to know him a little bit personally. And again, here's the thing. You and I were there with Ryan Day after the Michigan loss last year. You and I came on the postgame show and we're like, I don't know if this can continue. Right. And it's like, you can't navigate this anymore. It's just untenable, right? It's an untenable situation, which is different than this guy needs to go. It felt like an untenable situation. And then they went and did the thing. And look at Ryan Day now. So you leave open, I guess, the possibility for that. But I have who thinks that could possibly happen?
Yeah.
And now that Drew Aller's out, who thinks Penn State's going to go beat Ohio State and Indiana at this point? So I don't think there's a way that it can be rallied to change the perception And then if it stays anywhere close to this, which is we went all in and you blew it, then it's over. And if you've come to the conclusion it's over, why wait? And then you can go sit on your couch or go to the Bahamas or something and start your mental rehabilitation. I think people are writing it. I think he's not Penn State's coach after Monday.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think too. We'll see. His press conference is usually on, not usually, it is on Monday. So my assumption is that he will not be doing that press conference.
Okay. Or you think he will be there to do it, announce his resignation, or you think he won't be there?
Oh, I don't know.
It'll be Pat Kraft.
I think it would maybe be Pat Kraft, yeah, or they'll announce something tomorrow. I don't know. Like, part of it feels drastic, but like I just like where like it's really hard to see them moving forward. And I know people say like Penn State doesn't have, like, programs find the money. Everyone always finds the money. There are plenty of wealthy, motivated people who can give you the money. And
also, like, you don't like to drag him kicking and screaming out saying, like, give me every bit of that $50 million. I don't think is the case either, right? You negotiate a settlement, and my guess would be James Franklin and Pat Kraft come out together on Monday and announce a mutual parting of the ways that they both believe is in the best interest of the program. And they owe it to these players to put them in the best position to finish the year. And it is a difficult and toxic situation. And James Franklin feels like by removing himself from that situation, he will help everybody. And so he is going to and then he can fall on the sword a little bit and be a hero on his way out the door. And I don't mean to, like, I'm not taking a shot at James Franklin. It's just, it's not going to work anymore.
It's not.
You want to go to USC, Michigan?
Yeah.
So listen, USC had 5 running back injuries and got down, I guess it was their number 3 running back who's a walk-on, and they were just gashing the Michigan defense in a very interesting way. And it felt like a combination of them moving people around. Obviously, Mekhi Lemon is a stud at receiver, and they were running and throwing. Jaden Maeva made one goofy play, but then they also put Bryce Underwood at quarterback in a situation where they put him under pressure, and then it reminded you he's a freshman on the road. Okay, this is difficult. He made some good plays. He made some bad plays, but I don't know what to think about USC on the road, but USC at home is they're rounding into form. You said this week you thought they were getting back on track.
Yeah, well, I thought they got pushed around a little bit against Illinois, but again, it was a 9:00 body clock game. It was a angry and desperate Illinois, and I think a USC team that was kind of just going through the paces in that game. USC's A game is pretty good, and I think we more or less saw that in this game. It has been a rare feat over the last couple of years to see Michigan get pushed around the way it got pushed around. I tweeted it out toward the end of the game. So there have been, since the start of the 2021 season, only 2 teams have rushed for 200 yards against Michigan. It was USC tonight, and it was TCU in the college football playoff semifinal in 2022. And Michigan State rushed for 199 in one game. But it doesn't happen a lot. And some of those runs, you really heard the pads popping, and guys were really getting knocked off their spot. It was a nice game for USC. I give them a ton of, because I was wrong about them. I think I said, if Maeva is not running for his life, then I think USC will be able to throw the ball in Michigan, and he wasn't, and he did. But I was not really confident in USC's ability to block Michigan, and they blocked them pretty darn well for the whole game.
At Notre Dame next week, then off, then at Nebraska, and they're also at Oregon at the end of the year. So they have 3 road games left, and it's Notre Dame, Nebraska, Oregon. And so I don't. Yeah.
But Notre Dame's a night game. 3? Notre Dame's a night game. Nebraska is, I guess, only 2 time zones, not 3. And Oregon's a traditional West Coast game. I think USC can beat Notre Dame.
It's we might be down to and we'll do more. We do a playoff show on Tuesday nights. Of the 4th Big Ten playoff spot or Notre Dame. I don't know that that's exactly what USC and Notre Dame are playing for, but now this is a godsend for Notre Dame. They should be glad that USC looked great. They can't be oh no, this is Notre Dame has a chance now to get a good win against USC, so they have to go handle business. But USC certainly is in position. Nebraska also survived. Nebraska survived against Maryland, and that was
came back and won late, right?
I think Dylan Raiola threw 3 picks and they still found a way to win. Like they got a drive at the end, right? So that's like a nice win for Nebraska. But, if you feel good about, so Indiana and Ohio State are both 3-0 in conference play. USC is 3-1. And then a bunch of teams are 2-1 in the Big Ten. Oregon, Michigan, Northwestern, Nebraska, Washington, Iowa, Minnesota, UCLA. Illinois 2-2, Maryland's 1-2, and then Michigan State, Penn State, Rutgers, Purdue, and Wisconsin are all 0-3 in the Big Ten. What a mess!
I did see Evan Flood, who covers Wisconsin, I think for On 3, said like Wisconsin improves to 0-3 in the Big Ten and ties preseason favorite Penn State. Or something like that. Like, geez. Not great.
So, I mean, USC's firmly in that picture now, right?
Yeah,
obviously, like they've earned that right, and that would be a good record. Like that, they'll give you trouble. They're not going to be an easy out. But I don't know about them, regardless of time zones, regardless of how long the flight is. I'm not sure about them away from home, and they still feel like right when they were put Michigan away, then Maeva just made like a ridiculous flip when he was running out of bounds and threw a pick,
crazy throw,
and kept Michigan in it. And it was like, that was right at the point of like, I think it was 21-7 and they should have been putting Michigan away. It's like, okay, you're keeping them alive. What are you doing here? And against a team, I think with obviously the Michigan passing attack has improved, but it's not consistent yet. And then Justice Haynes was hurt a little bit for Michigan. So I don't know about USC against better teams, but that was a good win for USC and it really matters. The SEC is terrible. Oh, sorry. You want to say something about USC? What's your last USC point?
I just think that we'll talk more about it during the week, but like I'm with you on like USC against very good teams. I think it's a fair thing to sort of be cautious with. But that offense, when it's right, I think can score on almost any team in the country.
So let's talk briefly about the SEC being hot, smoking hot garbage. And man, I wish Ole Miss would have lost to Washington State. They were like 30-point favorites.
Close. People understand what Washington State is, right? Washington State is South Dakota State.
I'll tell you.
Year. Yeah.
So Washington State lost to Ole Miss 24-21. Washington State fell to 3-3. Their previous losses were 59-24 to Washington and 59-10 to North Texas. And Ole Miss beat them by 3. That's number 4 Ole Miss, who's tied for first in the SEC. The 3 teams tied for first in the SEC at 3-0 are Texas A&M, who I actually think might be good. Mm-hmm. They are probably and then it's Ole Miss, who beat Washington State by 3, and Alabama, who has a loss to 3-loss Florida State, who lost to Pitt today after they lost to Virginia and lost to Miami. So tell me who we're supposed to be impressed by? Nobody, right? There's nobody down there. They're going to wind up sending people to the playoff. Nobody's good, for real. I'm not even being hyperbolic. Nobody's good.
Texas A&M is the team that I can say is good without like throwing up in my mouth a little bit. But the rest of them,
that's fair.
Yeah, the rest of them like have flaws for sure. Like Texas got a nice win today. It was good to see Texas get back up off the mat. Also, shout out to Oklahoma for playing a quarterback with a broken hand. Can't believe it didn't work out for you. Yeah, there's just like it is a league that like I wondered as we got more and more into SEC play, if I actually might see these teams and see these games and think to myself, like, you know what? There's some parity, but there's some really good teams here. Like teams worth taking seriously. And I do not feel that way.
And no. Oh, good. Okay. I feel better. Yeah. I'd be in like, it's embarrassing. It really is. And if it was happening in the Big Ten, like we would have to call it out because it is a joke.
Mm-hmm.
These were they had one. Coming into this week, they had Ole Miss 4, Texas A&M 5, Oklahoma 6, Alabama 8, Georgia 10, LSU 11, Tennessee 12, Missouri 14, and Vanderbilt 20. There's no way that those are 9 of the best 20 teams in college football. Pull your heads out. What a collective. Fix your league. You're dragging down the sport. This sport is popping. And the SEC is dragging down college football. Get your stuff together, Paul. Tell Greg to get his stuff together. It's a joke.
Ooh, Sorry, I was looking at scores and I was distracted. Utah putting it on Arizona State right now.
Yeah, Sam Levitt's not playing, right? Jeff Sims.
No, Jeff Sims.
You knew that. You knew that wasn't going to go well. I took that minus 9.5 with Utah. Feeling good about those $2.
He's thrown the ball 17 times for 51 yards at the half. So good
go. Wisconsin is on fire. Wisconsin has lost 4 straight games to Alabama, Maryland, Michigan, and Iowa by a combined score of 126-34. And next up they started 2-0. They've lost 4 straight. Their next games are Ohio State at Oregon, an off week, Washington at Indiana, Illinois. I don't think Luke Fickell's done before next week, but I think Ohio State end Luke Fickell's tenure at Wisconsin if they take it to the Badgers too much in Madison, because it's worse when it's at home. It's worse when it's at home.
This is why would that be the straw, right? Like, this is a rival they just lost to. They got shut out for the first time in 30 years, whatever you said it was. I don't know. I don't know why you let them get to that game. It'd be nice for Ohio State, I guess, if they could put Luke on the plane and bring him back and he's an analyst for the rest of the season.
Do you think we could have 2 coaching changes in the Big Ten on Monday?
Yes. I might actually feel stronger that Luke Fickell won't be coaching next week than James Franklin.
Because the thing would be, I mean, it's just hard to get that turnaround. I don't know if it's like you make Luke coach against Ohio State and at Oregon, and then they have an off week. And it's like, here, you go play the 2 best teams in the country, and we'll let the interim coach take over after that. We don't want to put him in that spot. Just to watch. I mean, and I had it on in the background on one of the TVs.
Not that it's an excuse, but they're down.
I know. It's just so bad. I can't. It's hard to believe how bad it got at Penn. Even though you kind of wondered, it's something else to lose 37-0 at home at Iowa.
Whose quarterback was a game time decision because he's so hurt, and then he I think rushed for 2 touchdowns in that game.
And then I do want to give a little bit of a shout out. The bottom 5 teams in our former KOTN preseason Big Ten poll: UCLA was 14, Rutgers was 15, Maryland was 16, Northwestern was 17, and Purdue was 18. Number 14, UCLA beat Michigan State handily on Saturday. Number 16, Maryland gave Nebraska everything it could handle and made Nebraska come back and win. Number 17, Northwestern beat Penn State. And number 18, Purdue gave Minnesota everything it could handle, and Minnesota didn't win until Coy Parrish got a pick 6 in the 4th quarter to break a 20-20 tie. And this is the kind of thing that the SEC would say. But the bottom of the Big Ten is, well, what we thought that Wisconsin's terrible. Michigan State is not looking good. Actually, Rutgers, I think, is pretty competitive, and they've had some tough losses, and they're kind of a one-dimensional team. Wisconsin, I think, is, I mean, honestly, it's like Wisconsin and Penn State. Who are the only non-competitive teams in the Big Ten?
Wisconsin and Penn State.
Michigan State's borderline.
Michigan State got its butt kicked by UCLA today. Yeah.
But I do think like it's a credit, and it's just a reminder of like, well, UCLA, well, they got Nico Iamaleava, and like now they're doing some stuff with him, right? And you look at like Purdue, Barry Odom's a good hire. And like Barry Odom has them playing much better than they were a year ago. And Northwestern, like they got Preston Stone in the transfer portal, and like he played terrible at the beginning of the year, but he's playing better. And they found like Anto Saka, who's Northwestern's like best edge rusher, didn't even play today, and they won anyway. They went and got an FCS receiver who's their best receiver. So like it's just a reminder.
Northwestern's got Purdue and Minnesota left. I don't.
Yeah,
that might be their only chance to get a win, but they can make a bowl this year.
But like, do you think that's true? That it's like you and I had talked a lot about sort of like the middle of the Big Ten coming into this year, but like shout out to the bottom of the perceived.
No, I think the preseason bottom has been better. I mean, maybe what we thought of the preseason middle. Actually, I don't know. I guess the preseason middle is pretty good, or about what we thought it would be. Minnesota's probably not as good as we thought they could be. I think Washington's about what we thought it would be.
I mean, we had Indiana in the middle.
Indiana's
like the 3rd best team in the country. UCLA, we had UCLA in the middle, right?
No, I think
Michigan's shown some flashes. Nebraska's found a way to be 5-1. I think the middle's been hanging in.
Middle's been pretty good. Yeah, I think the two. I mean, obviously what's happening at UCLA is kind of incredible. The Purdue thing, like Purdue's only got 2 wins, but they've been far more competitive this year than they were at any point last year. I think you gotta dig into that one a little bit to see that it is better, but it is. And Northwestern, I think, has already exceeded expectations by winning 4 games and beating Penn State. So like anything else is gravy from here on out. So yeah, the bottom's not terrible. We thought it might be terrible, and it's not terrible.
Indiana 6-0. Home against Michigan State next week, home against UCLA, at Maryland, at Penn State, home against Wisconsin, then a week off, and then at Purdue to end the season. So maybe somebody will jump up and bite them, but I think that is the biggest, as much as the end of Penn State, I think is a bigger story, sort of like big picture, to think that we're talking about, like, is James Franklin's career at Penn State going to be over? I think for what's happening this college football season, and again, I just saw a couple people on Twitter who were like, I knew this was going to be a crazy season that you couldn't figure out. It's like, is it crazy, or is it just like the defending national champs are the best team and everybody's chasing them? That there's part of this that is, do you think, so we did a whole Ohio State, Illinois postgame show when that game ended, so we don't have to rehash Ohio State, Illinois here. But it feels like people are very, like, the SEC is a mess. Indiana just went and beat Oregon. Everybody was talking about Penn State in the offseason, and they're on fire. Clemson was a national title pick. They're on fire. Texas fell off a cliff and maybe revived itself today. And everybody's like, man, the sport's so crazy. And it is, but simultaneously, the defending national champions continue to take care of business. And I do think probably the appropriate way to analyze this season is, everything is crazy. Isn't it awesome? But also, by the way, Ohio State might just be repeating.
How strongly do you feel about that? I guess, like, Ohio State, like, we pretty quickly came around to the idea of, like, yep, they have what they need to repeat. It wasn't like a call that they were actually going to do it. But have you gotten stronger in that belief as the season has gone on?
So I do think, like, the idea that you could see what good line play and some athletes and just poised quarterback play did to Oregon, right? It was like, okay. And I think there's a lot of, like, I think a lot of what Indiana executed against Oregon is the kind of thing that Ohio State could execute. Miami remains like, man, if they just maul you up front on both sides of the ball, like, I'm not sure what that's going to look like. But it's one of those, and we're going to have things on our Ohio State Substack with our Substack subscribers. You guys can find us there if you want more Ohio State coverage. Bill and Doug, OSU.substack.com. It's just like, for Ohio State fans, it's still like, oh, I wish this play call was better. I wish this was better. And it's like, you realize there are other programs that are on fire. And the issue with Ohio State is like, oh, that 2nd and 7 call, I wasn't so sure about that. Or I wish their punt went 8 yards farther. It is like relatively minor things compared to what is happening across the sport. Now, I don't think Oregon is undergoing a reevaluation today. I don't think Dan Lanning is looking himself in the mirror, taking his shirt off and saying, Dan, where did we fail? I just think it was like they got by a really good team. But I don't think Oregon's going anywhere. But Ohio State has a lot going for it and does not have a lot of holes. And in a landscape where there's so much crazy stuff going on, a winning team without very many holes, I think every week you get a little more like, I don't know, it might be them again.
Yeah, no, I do kind of feel that way. And we've talked about this last week when they just sort of like rose above the craziness, right? With a big win against comfortable win against Minnesota. And this was like it was not the most aesthetically pleasing game in the world, but it was a pretty comfortable win on the road against Illinois. So yeah, I think I would still put them at the top. If someone said you have to pick a national champion on October 12th, I would pick Ohio State right now. But the group you would consider, I think, is like real national title contenders gained a member tonight or this afternoon with how Indiana played.
And there's no doubt about that, right?
Not for me. Like, I don't.
You would state, I think Indiana could win the national title.
Yeah, I think they could.
Yeah, I think they could too, because I think their quarterback play is good enough.
Yeah.
I think their quarterback and their skill is good enough. They have playmakers on defense. I think they have two good coordinators and a head coach that knows how to get his guys ready for a big game. And they've been through it a little bit. Again, it's like, I don't know. And if their lines hold up, and I think it was a reasonable thing to not be sure about how their offensive line was going to hold up, but they did. And so they got one sack. So if that's where you are, it's like the Fernando Mendoza, Carson Beck quarterback matchup. It's like, I feel good about Fernando Mendoza in that matchup. I feel, Fernando Mendoza against Dante Moore, against Julian Sand. That's just a thing. Cause I think it was reasonable last year. It's like, Curtis Rourke, he's this Mac guy. He's done this amazing job, but like when it's really, really, really time, is that for sure going to happen? But I don't think there's anybody who has those questions. Fernando Mendoza is an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, he's absolutely an NFL quarterback.
So it's like, okay, well, they have a first-round quarterback, and so they have like 2 NFL receivers and like 5 NFL defensive players, and their offensive line held up. It's like, I don't know, that's pretty good. So
I don't know. Maybe if they we saw Ohio State's and Notre Dame's depth get tested in major ways last year, and they still got to the national championship. Is Indiana built to weather something like that? Maybe not.
That's a good question. Yeah.
But assuming everyone is healthy and Indiana can play its best guys, I think they can play with anybody. I'm not saying I would predict them to beat anyone they come into contact with moving forward, but I think they can play with anybody.
I think Indiana wins a playoff game. I'll make that prediction right now, whatever that looks like.
Yeah,
maybe it's a 5-12. Maybe so it's a first round game, but I think they win a playoff game.
Because I think they'll get a home game, unlike last year. Again, it's assuming they don't fall off. If Indiana had to play like whatever, like this
Ole Miss,
like the 4th or 5th SEC team or the 2nd ACC team or something like that. Yeah, I think they can beat those teams.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks everybody for joining us here on this show. We obviously are focused on Ohio State coverage, but we also want to check in on this kind of thing because we still have opinions about this. We still have knowledge about this. We still think it's interesting, and somebody has to tell the South to cram it, right?
That is correct. Yes.
Because I didn't sell them.
What do you think you can get?
Still got them
on the open market. They're game used.
They are game used. Maybe I'll go set up a booth at the Renaissance Fair, which is where I got them at the Ohio Renaissance Festival. And then I'll be like, these are college football swords now. Because maybe I'll sign them. You think if I autograph the sword, that would up the value?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. All right. Thanks everybody for being here. Thanks for hanging out. We'll catch you from a national perspective on our Tuesday night playoff show. We make our national picks on Friday. We did pretty good this week. Actually. At least I did. I was 5-2. I think you were 4-3, maybe. So that's pretty good. We'll take it. Yeah, we'll take it. And then we have a bunch of Ohio State stuff on our Substack, on the YouTube channel. But we just want to remind you guys that, although we do a ton of Ohio State, we also want to check in on this stuff from time to time when it's needed because the North still rules college football. I'm sorry. Right?
It's become too powerful. Yeah. How could you deny it?
I think Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon are probably all going to make the semifinals.
3rd straight North versus North national title.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm here for it. I'm sorry, Paul. I'm sorry. The truth hurts. That's just how it is. All right. Thanks to you guys for being here for now. He's Bill Landis. I'm Doug Lesmerises, and that was the Bill and Doug Show.